Hey folks, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. And this is of Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This is a film that came out, I believe, 1994, which actually made sense because it was the 10th anniversary of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one was 1984, and this was 1994. And they got Wes Craven to come back to direct. Of course, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Probably didn't do as well as they thought, but it still made a bit of money. Made about 30 million or so, so it wasn't like it was a flop or anything. But Wes Craven had this idea. For the film when Bob Shaye came up, and I think like Bob Shaye and Wes Craven for a while had some problems with each other, but then like Bob Shaye called, got it all settled with Wes, and said, okay, the only reason it's not the only reason I called. It's the 10th anniversary, and is there any ideas that you would have? And I gotta say, I really enjoy this film because, of course, this is before Wes Craven did Scream. And you say this is a film that I know the writer of Scream, Kevin Williamson, never mentions this film, but I have to believe that Kevin Williamson must have seen this film and some type of inspiration. And I like Scream. Scream 3 I like okay. Scream 2 not so much. I mean, I did reviews for all the Scream films. When I reviewed Scream 4, I just did it all in one video. And check back, when I reviewed Scream 4, I reviewed like the first 3 as well in the same one video. But even though I like Scream, I would say I like this film a bit more. I just thought it was an ingenious idea. The fact that it's Heather Langenkamp coming back playing herself. Robert England coming back playing himself, as well as this darker Freddy who has a different look to him. You have Wes Craven playing himself, Bob Shaye playing himself. It's just a really ingenious idea that takes place in the real world. And the real Heather Langenkamp, she has a stalker. Apparently, a lot of the script was based on real life, meaning like Heather did have a stalker. I think she did have a family member who was in an institution, I believe. Could be wrong on that. Could be wrong. But that was put into a script in a line of dialogue. And pretty much this Heather Langenkamp had a stalker who gives her scary phone calls. This opening sequence where it's kind of reminiscent of the first movie. You get a lot of nods to the first movie, which in this instance, a lot of times in movies that could be annoying. This one, it works very well. It worked very well for what the story was. Where pretty much Heather Langenkamp has a son, played by Miko Hughes, who he's been acting very strange lately. In this opening, you find out she has a nightmare that. Remember in the first movie, the opening, you see a hand making the glove. Here is making a different type of glove, and it pulls out. Oh, they're making a movie, and Wes Craven's directing. But the special effect of the hand goes crazy and starts killing some of the special effects guys. And it's going after her husband. She wakes up. And around this time, there were earthquakes happening. And in fact, in reality, soon after shooting an earthquake sequence, the Northwich quake shook Los Angeles. We were about to have rubble created for the movie, but instead we were able to just go out and film from the streets. Interesting. And pretty much her kid is acting weird. She's getting these weird phone calls. She gets a phone call from Bob Shaye after doing this interview with this guy who's asking him, is Freddy really dead? She's like, yeah, Freddy's dead. And then you have Robert Englund come in, playing more of the, Freddy's dead type of Freddy. I just like the way it was shot, like Heather looking at it, and it's, okay, everything's fun and games, but the way it's slow-mos and Freddy's doing this and the way it's lit and the way Heather looks at him, I thought it's like, okay, it's nice way to, something's definitely up with Heather, and sort of a thing, a nod for things to come, so to speak. And I just really like the idea. Heather Langenkamp, I thought was fantastic. I would say, out of all the films, this is my favorite performance of hers. I really liked her in the first film. In the third film, she's okay, but she doesn't have the most to do. Uh, kind of awkward at times. Not probably not her fault, but just I love Nightmare 3, but it is a little awkward. I don't know how else to put it. But I thought this was her best role, her best performance. Again, I really liked her in the first film, but I thought she did a really great job here as playing herself. But I still thought she did a really great job here. You have an appearance of John Saxon. Robert Englund playing himself was nice. I even thought Bob Shea and Wes Craven did all right of a job. I know a lot of people make fun of them, but I thought they did fine for what they had to do. And this is definitely not meant to be a body count film, because maybe those two effects guys, her husband is driving home because she called her, and while he's sleeping, you have the scene where the hand comes out the bottom of the seat, just lightly grazes the jeans of his crotch, and then disappears. And guy, maneuvers, and then the thing comes out and stabs him right in the chest. And then you have this woman who plays the sort of babysitter of her son. At a point, at this point, the son has been put in a hospital because he's been acting weird and seizures and stuff. And Freddy, the babysitter, is trying to help Dylan, the kid played by Miko Hughes, but again, a nod to the first film. Freddy grabs the babysitter and is dragging her on up to the ceiling and kills her, and it was sad because she was a likable character. But don't go in this expecting a body count, and I didn't either. I thought it was a good story that was well told. Uh, I probably would put this in my top 5 of Elm Street films. I mean, thinking about it, it would be 4 is my favorite, and then 3. And then honestly, I would say 2, then Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Yes, I can't help it. I'm sorry. I have a soft spot for part 2. Sue me. Then Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and then the original film. That'd be my top 5. I know people will be pissed. I don't give a shit. It's my list. Make your own list. But this was an ingenious idea. I keep saying that. I'm going to keep repeating that ad nauseum. But stuff I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the nods that they put in there. I thought worked. Like, you have the line "screw your past" that's put in there. How it talks about the whole idea when Heather visits Wes Craven's house, and he sort of tells what's going on about an evil that has sort of been locked within the pantheon of a story, and that this evil's locked in there. But then if somehow the story dies, whether it gets watered down or whether it gets banned without giving it a chance, or somehow when the story dies, the evil is released, and that this evil actually likes being Freddy, was used to being Freddy, that it decides to be Freddy. And Heather's like, is there anyone that can stop him? And he's like, yeah, there's someone I dream. Sort of like Keeper of the Gate. Which, when he said that, I swear it made me think of Dream Master. Because Alice, had her gate, and then Freddy had his gate. So when he said that, it made me think of Alice from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. But he says, yeah, there's a gate, it's you. You were the first one to defeat him. I just really liked that scene. I really thought the scene was well done. And this scene really uh, exemplifies what it is about this film I enjoy. Because I really like the dialogue where Wes Craven goes, you don't have to make a choice. What choice? If you don't play Nancy one last time. And then Heather looks at the computer screen, and all the dialogue on the computer screen is the stuff that they were just talking about. And the camera scrolls down the computer screen saying all the dialogue that they were just saying. And then at the bottom of the screen it says fade to black, and then of course the scene fades to black. I like that. I like that idea that it's just the script is the film that we're watching, but at the same time these actors are going through real turmoil, but at the same time it's for a film that we're watching. I don't know, it makes me think, and it's just fascinating idea. It was nice to see John Saxon come back. Sequences I enjoy. I enjoy the sequence like when her husband dies, they have a funeral. And it's weird. Is not weird, but it's interesting seeing people at the funeral. Like you see Wes Craven, you see Bob Shea. You actually see Tuesday Night, who was a Nightmare 4. You see Nick Corey, who was in the first film. In fact, I believe Wes Craven was going to ask Johnny Depp, but he was nervous. But then later on, he talked to Johnny Depp, and Johnny Depp says, "You should have asked me." So, which I thought was cool, because I know, like on Never Sleep Again, uh, he was willing to do an interview, but he had no time because I think that's what he was doing. Probably one of the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff and all that stuff. Busy guy, or he was doing a Tim Burton film, so he just didn't have the time to do it. But I thought that was kind of cool that he said that he wasn't being a dick, like sometimes some people are. So that was cool. Uh, And then she knocks herself on the head because an earthquake shakes everything up. And then she sees her kid being pulled by Freddy into the coffin. She has to dive in and grab him. And then her husband's like falling on top of her and is just trying to, like, come with me, Heather. I thought that was kind of an interesting sequence. There are times where Heather sees her kid in a trance-like state, and he's actually watching scenes from the very first Elm Street film. I thought that was cool. I like the scene where she calls Robert Englund, and Robert Englund, he's painting, and you don't know what he's painting, but he's freaked out. You get a sense that he's been having nightmares as well, and it's revealed that he's actually painting the darker, evil Freddy, which has a different makeup job. Interesting makeup job. I mean, yeah, I prefer the original makeup job, but it's still an interesting, the gloves or different take on it as well. Those are interesting. And I just like the themes. Like for example, you have this older woman doctor who, of course, doesn't believe Heather and thinks that Heather is hurting her own child. I love. I listen to a bit of the commentary, and I love that the I'm gonna call it the bitch doctor. The name of the doctor, I believe, is Hefner or something, but it pretty much the big old bitch doctor. And Wes Craven based her on I believe at the time it was the head of the MPAA, who he talks about was the bane of his existence. And when he said that, I'm like, okay, I get where he's going with this lady. That's why I hate her, because Wes Craven gave her the name of the guy who did the MPAA. I'm like, now I understand why we're supposed to hate this woman, because she's a bitch. It's like your films are influencing your child. It's like fuck you, bitch. One thing though, I wish that they would have had Heather just smack her in the face at least once. Like trying to, she just smacks her in the face because the lady deserved it. But a lot more interesting scenes, like Heather had a conversation with her kid about the kid was asking, where's dad, and she's like, well, he's in heaven, and he's talking about, can you see God? Can you only see God if you're dead? And she's like, well, no, maybe if you pray or if you reach out. And then in the playground, while Heather's talking to John Saxon, which is it's nice that John Saxon seems like a very sympathetic guy, a guy who's a close friend of Heather. And then Dylan climbs up and he's reaching for God, and then he falls, but he goes, no, he wouldn't take me. So you have interesting sequences like that. But you also have a sequence where Freddy attacks Heather, and Heather gets slashed on the arm, but is able to hold Freddy off. You have, I really like the sequence when her kid is sort of in this trance-like state. maybe not translate state, but is out of the hospital and Heather's chasing after him and gets on this freeway sequence. I thought this freeway sequence was well done. Just you see that Freddy grabs Dylan, just toying with him with cars, and Heather's jumping into the freeway, and this truck is trying to stop, but then it's what's that term? It is fucked up, and the back end is steering. I know there's a term for it. And Heather has to duck down the nick of time. She's running, has to duck down, narrowly misses her, and she's trying to get through. Then she gets hit by a car, but she's still going for her son. And I love the way the ending was played out. I thought the way the ending was played out was really interesting because she had called John Saxon before, and John Saxon gets there. But then when she mentions Freddy Krueger, you see John Saxon's expression turn, and he goes, "Yeah, sure," which was a line of dialogue from the first movie. And then he sort of takes her out and calls her Nancy. And she's like, "What do you call me Nancy, John?" She turns to the house and she turns back. And then there's John Saxon in the outfit from the very first film. At the end of the first film. Has the police badge. And then Freddy's coming out of the bed. And then she has to sort of accept her role in this. So she goes, "Yeah, I love you too, Daddy." She accepts that she's Nancy now. And Freddy comes out, and then when she turns, she has the pajamas on. And she has to follow her son, who has a... There was this bedtime story about breadcrumbs, only this time it's sleeping pills, and she has to pick up the sleeping pills and take them to follow her son into the dream world. Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting idea, sort of a really cool fairy tale type quality to it. And she gets under the covers, she slides in this sort of corridor of hell, so to speak. I will admit, though, the only problems I have with the movie are a couple nitpicks, but I've had nitpicks on all of them. Like in this sequence, I like when she's sliding down and she like brought a knife with her. But then when she gets out and falls like from this Freddy mouth, and it's like this really, in my opinion, shitty matte painting with some CGI enhancements of her falling down into hell. That was a really bad effect. I kind of wish they would have just taken that out. Like her just fall out and then just go into the water. Because I really thought that was a shitty matte paint. I think you could just cut out. Just have Heather go out and then land in the water down below. Just a shitty matte paint with CGI. It just really looked really shitty. Also, when Freddy finally dies, he's being burned up, but then he turns this demon and like balloons up and really poor CGI. That was shitty. So I wish that was cut out too. So just these poor CGI moments, kind of wish they were cut out. Just really. And the only bad thing I liked, I'll be honest, the only other thing was the kid. You know, I tried to give him a chance here. Because I'm like, okay, part 5. I saw part 5, and I kind of like the kid a bit more in that film. But I'll still maintain I like that kid more than this film. Miko Hughes, I did not care for. The only reason I cared for the kid was because Heather Langenkamp cared for the kid. And I cared for Heather Langenkamp. So it's okay, it's her kid, so I care about her. So it can kind of trickle down to me caring about the kid. But Miko Hughes, yeah, I liked him in Pet Sematary before he got run over. But I didn't, which I know I remember I did talk to my friends, and like, Miko Hughes, what about Pet Sematary? I'm like, yeah, I liked the Pet Sematary before he got run over. And I know my friends like, oh, that's fucked up. It's true. But here, like, Miko Hughes, he's okay at times, but then sometimes I don't know what is about him. I just don't like him as a kid actor. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I really don't. Just sometimes when he's supposed to talk really serious, I don't know if I was gonna laugh about it or just couldn't take it seriously. I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe to me it would have been more interesting if it was a little girl. If it was a little girl that was going through this, maybe that would have been more interesting. Because the last time you had a little boy was, well, yeah, I mean, I guess in Freddy's Dead you had a little girl who was the child version of the lead character in Freddy's Dead. I don't know, to me, maybe I don't know. I didn't care for him. I don't know how else to put it. I didn't fucking care for his acting, and almost didn't care. I mean, there's some parts that I thought was okay, but for the most part, I don't know what it is. Just I didn't care for him. Did not care for him. As in, didn't care for his acting. Didn't care for his delivery. Just I know it's a kid actor, but I didn't care for him. I like the kid in Part 5 better. Like the little kid in Freddy's dad, who was the child version of Lisa Zane. I liked her better. I like the little girl in Part 3 when Patricia Arquette carries better. I don't know what it is. I like them better. But I mean, that's the only problems I have was those little problems. But yeah, I really like the ending. Heather gets some really good stuff. Um, like for example, Freddy's trying to push into these eels. She grabs one, and stabs her right into his eye. Or she gets up and goes, fuck you, and just punches the shit out of him. Boom. That was a really like, yeah. So a crowd pleasing moment when she just said, fuck you, boom. Knocked his ass down. And Freddy's trying to kill her, but then Dylan's helping up. The kid is helping up, stabbing him in the leg. And Freddy's chasing him into this boiler. And Freddy extends his arm to get Dylan, but then Heather stabs him. And then another motif earlier on, you have the ton and the phone motif that has a. These nods worked well. Like a lot of times it can be annoying, but they worked well because that's what it worked well with the story because there was this demon type creature that was referencing the first film all the time, so it makes sense they would do that. It's sort of like real life. The real life turns into the movie. I'm probably sounding confusing, but I just really, again, like the idea. I thought it was really clever ideas. But then Freddy's tongue wraps around Heather, but then Dylan helps stab him. They push him in, and he dies. Again, I didn't really care for the effect. But they get out of the dream world, and they're back to reality, and they find the script, and he's like, oh, read it to me. And she starts reading the script from the beginning. She's reading the stuff that we saw at the very beginning of the film. And yeah, I thought that was very clever. And yeah, I thought, seeing people like Bob Shaye and Wes Craven and Robert Englund playing themselves was really cool. Yeah, I thought Heather Langenkamp did a really great job acting wise. Just the whole idea behind the film was very clever. It was interesting. It kept me involved. The Freddy is definitely going for more scary again, not for goofiness. And the whole film is trying to be more serious, which is good on them. That was well directed by Wes Craven. It definitely is one of his best films. Definitely be in my top 5 Wes Craven films. Other than those little nitpicks, I really enjoyed the ending, the way how reality becomes the movie world, and her having to accept being Nancy again, and really worked well for her character. Really well. Also, Heather Langenkamp, was able to kick some ass again, which was really cool to see because I like Heather Langenkamp. The score, I like the one piece of music that I forget what the hell it is. I think it's during when Wes Craven is explaining to Heather about what they're dealing with, and I know you hear that little piece of in the trailer as well. The boom, boom, dun, dun. I'm doing a shitty job. I'm gonna stop. I'm I'm trying to think of stuff that I don't. There's stuff I don't want to forget. Wes Craven's New Nightmare, I thought, was a really interesting, clever way to do a film. It worked well for the 10th anniversary of the first film. Unfortunately, when the film came out, it did nothing for business. All this has is a commentary with Wes Craven, although I guess you can see Never Sleep Again and hear some behind the scenes on the film and stuff. But really enjoyable movie. Really just clever, interesting, precursor to Scream. Few years, was it about at least two or so years before Scream. And weirdly enough, it was edited by Patrick Lussier, who went on to edit the Scream films. Really enough. I just thought Wes Craven wrote and directed a good script. That's really my bottom line. I thought Wes Craven's New Nightmare was a really good script. It was a good idea, and it was well handled. And yeah, there's some little nitpicks I have, but overall, it was great to see Heather Langenkamp come back, and I thought she did a knockout job. She was definitely my favorite part of the film. It was nice to see John Saxon there, and Wes Craven and Bob Shaye and Robert Englund playing themselves. The whole idea behind the film and the different look of Freddy was interesting. Definitely a big thumbs up for me for Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Just a very, I'll say it one last time, an ingenious idea. But either way, that's just my review on Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Thanks for watching, take care, and stay tuned for more reviews. Next up, it'll be the last two of the Elm Street videos, which I will try to review, not try, but I'll review Freddy vs. Jason again, even though I reviewed this film once, but it just, with the continuity, just, at least it'll get me warmed up for the remake, which, the same night, you'll see a review for this, even though, again, I reviewed this film once before, but I don't mind reviewing it again, and then the remake. And I don't know if anyone really wants me to review Never Sleep Again. I reviewed it a long time ago, probably not, but who knows, maybe I'll do it just for fun, because I know I want to watch it again. But either way, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you later.